joining our co-host, Kareem Hamid, in just one moment.
Hi, I'm Naima Latif. Join me and my co-host Kareem Hamid every Wednesday morning, 7 a.m. to 9 a.m. on the Female Solution Radio Show as we explore that relationship that is the foundation for our society, the relationship between men and women, husbands and wives. Join our discussion as we seek to repair broken family ties and rebuild our community. Listen online at www.blogtalkradio.com/the-female-solution. Call in and comment 515-605-9325. Press 1 to speak to our host. Or you can join us live on Facebook at www.facebook.com/the-female-solution.
And Grand Rising, and let us join our co-host Kareem Hamid and our American Muslim 360 family as we prepare for another exciting edition of the Female Solution Global Radio TV show. I'm Naima Latif, and we have exciting news for you. If you have been watching the news, if you are in the United States, and of course definitely in the city of Chicago, you know we've had quite an election battle over these last several weeks that played upon some of our greatest concerns. So now let us bring in our co-host.
And in action, on behalf of CWSC Intelligentsia,
And
#1 Islamic
we'll be
radio
right
station
back
in the nation,
after
where
this
your intellect
quick
is
break.
respected and your voice
So
protected.
stay
American
with
Muslim
us.
360, the Speakers Bureau. Assalamu alaikum.
And we are with our co-host Kareem Hamid, and so excited to join in today. Give me just one quick break. We'll be right back, and then we'll talk about today's topic because we've had quite an exciting time all evening here in Chicago. So we'll be right back after this quick break. So stay with us.
Hi, I'm Barbara.
I'm Cheryl.
And I'm Naima. We're 3 Black moms.
And in case you didn't notice the resemblance, we're also 3 sisters.
We're going to be coming to you every week, sharing our successes and our mistakes as we navigate our lives as moms, wives, sisters, daughters, and of course, Black women in today's world.
We'll talk about it all: race, politics, religion, economics, culture, and we'll take a look at everything from whether or not to use corporal punishment to how do you teach your children about sex.
Look for our upcoming book, Growing Up Charles. It's a personal story about our lives growing up in Maple Park on Chicago's South Side. I'm Barbara.
I'm Cheryl.
And I'm Naima. We're 3 Black moms. Follow us on Facebook and subscribe to our YouTube channel, 3 Black Moms.
And we are back. You're listening to and watching the Female Solution Global Radio TV show. I'm Naima Latif, along with our co-host Kareem Hamid. and our American Muslim 360 family. And we invite you to call in this morning because we want to hear your thoughts. We're going to talk about leadership, young male leadership, and most importantly, the new leader of the city of Chicago, Cook County Commissioner Brandon Jonnson, who fought a battle that was basically between him and an elderly gentleman, elderly Caucasian gentleman, and as a younger black gentleman, of course, he's a little under 50, so for me, he's still young, but for some other folks, it might be a little bit, middle-aged to old. However, this was a time for us to really examine how we feel as a nation when it comes to the way we see each other. And a lot of things were exposed in this battle that we want to talk about today. The fears that we have of young African American people, because that was kind of the underlying threat. Now, we had, after the COVID crisis, we had some pretty ugly rioting here in Chicago and in other cities, but here people tore up major parts of downtown, which was a thriving business center known throughout the world, North Michigan Avenue and all of that. And when riots broke out after the George Floyd killing, and a lot of businesses actually went out of business, the fear that many people had was of young, out of control, so to speak, African American youth. That became the face of devastation for a lot of elder people, both black and white. And it was the undercurrent of that was a lot of the driving force in the advertisements and the code words used in this campaign, because people were afraid that an element of our community was not going to be controlled unless someone who was willing to be strict and stern were put into office. This was a lot of the code language being used in this election of Chicago mayor. And what it says is that our youth are seen by even some of us as the enemy. So we want to talk about that today, because the fact that that was exposed means it's still there. It's still a thought. And one of the major issues that kept coming up had to do with policing. How are we going to handle police? How many more police do we need to hire? And how should we put the police out on the street? And the underlying unspoken thing was, how do we control these young black people? And so in the race for mayor, and we had a chance to kind of hear a bit from the candidates during this time. And Paul Vallas, the candidate who is Caucasian and nearing 70, was supported by many of the establishment blacks, and even some of the community activist blacks. And a lot of questions were raised. Well, why are you supporting this man when a intelligent young black man is running and has served as a commissioner on our Cook County board? Why would you pick someone else who may not have the sensitivities to our community over someone who has repeatedly says he's grown up in the worst crime-ridden neighborhoods, so he understands some of the underlying problems? And yet there's still a psychology that we have when it comes to who can get our children under control. And that was the underlying thing that I saw in this contest, the fear that we have of our own young people and wanting someone to get them back under control. And so all the code language used to say that, yeah, I could see through it because I understand what it is. A lot of people were afraid after the riots, and then there were crimes such as carjacking that spiked, and no one seemed to know what to do to get a handle on young people who has just exploded in uncontrollable behavior and didn't seem to care about the consequences. So we want to talk about that today because Chicago has now elected a new mayor, a man who grew up in the lower income communities on Chicago's west side, worked his way up, has now had a thriving political career, and was widely supported by many young whites and Hispanics as well as blacks. He had a multiracial, multi-generational support base, and it was close, but in the end he pulled it out. But a lot of things were exposed in terms of attitudes that we want to talk about, because there's a problem if we are seeing our own youth as the problem. And what are we going to do at this point to change the perception about our young people as being the problem that needs to be controlled and contained? One of the things that Brandon Jonnson did say was a lot of the issues that we have are mental health crises that had gone untreated. But how are we looking at organizing our cities? And are we thinking that the answer is to lock up more young black people who may become violent? Is that always going to be the answer? Or do we need to address some deeper issues? So, Brother Kareem, there in St. Louis, the returns came in. It was a little late in the evening. We were there. And it was close, and I was surprised that they actually came up with it because it was so close. And I know a lot of times, when it's close, sometimes the loser doesn't want to concede. They want to hold out hope or stall or whatever. But that didn't happen. They did declare Brandon Jonnson, the black man running, as the new mayor, somewhere around, I guess it was a little after 9 p.m. So by 10 o'clock, they had declared him the winner. But we want to get your thoughts on how many of our cities across the nation are looking at the rise in crime, and they're putting a young black face on it. And they're saying that harsher controls are needed. And if this is the attitude, then the kind of brutality that many youth are complaining about, and some older people, will not change unless we change the attitude and change the approach. But one thing that happened, a lot of young whites were backing this candidate, and I'm thinking, well, this is the generation that grew up with 8 years of Barack Obama as president. So a black man in leadership is not a strange thing for them. But even some of our own people even some black people have doubts about black people in leadership, or fears of black youth as needing more repression. So what are your thoughts on that?
Well, praise be to Allah. I want to congratulate the Honorable Brandon Jonnson for his winning the seat of mayor in Chicago, one of the largest cities in this country, a cosmopolitan city. I want to congratulate him. And, I remember when I think it was George Bush was running for the presidency. He used the image of an African American male and associated that image with crime, and that struck fear in the citizens of this country. We are being utilized as a stick of fear. Crime has been given in young African American face. At the same time, that is what is being shown to us on the news cycle, is the so-called African American male. But in this country and in Chicago, I'm quite sure, there are a lot of progressive, forward-looking, forward-thinking, peaceful, educated African American youth in Chicago. I'm quite sure there is. But they are never highlighted. They always highlight those that are outside of the norm. The norm is the progressive, intelligent, bright African American youth. And so the African American youth are used as a fear-mongering tool. Why aren't the progressive, college-educated, or entrepreneurial African Americans, why aren't they given as much publicity as those that we deem criminal? We are being used. We are being used. Fear-mongering. There are a lot of progressive, intelligent African American youth, male and female, but they are ignored. They are not given the spotlight. So that the idea of the young African American, either you vote for me or they will come and get you. They will come and get you. So I'm aware of politics and the messages that are sent, and we are being used as a stick of fear. You know, let me say this: that law enforcement is not they are a responsive tool. They only respond when something has happened or took place. But there are people in this country and in our cities that in front of so-called problems. They are in the need of addressing the myriad of the shortfall that may be occurring in our community. So I'm only highlighting that they have put an African American face on crime. But we are not the only ones that are committing crime. I can name some races that are just as involved in crime. I can name some ethnic groups, but they're never highlighted. They're never put on the front page. They are never used as a campaign tool for getting into office. I would feel much better if those that are running for office, if they would highlight the best among us, highlight the best among us, you know, and that you stand with the progressive elements among us, and you shall strengthen them instead of always using fear-mongering tactics to get our vote. Now, crime is real. I'm not saying it is not. Crime is real, but there is a cause. There is a cause for everything. We know that manufacturing have left major cities, have almost have transported to other third world countries. Those were jobs. Those were incomes. And they are not being replaced by another source of income. So when you withhold sustenance from any people, crime can be the result of that lack of sustenance. But also, we as an African American community, we bear some responsibility also. We say we are the African American community, but what is a community comprised of? A community is comprised of mothers and fathers and families. That's the first social unit. So when we look to see how many of us are truly active in establishing community life, getting married, have a wife, children, home ownership, getting involved in the neighborhood and the community that we live. That is where leadership comes from. So we have a responsibility also to truly establish community life once more. We say the African American community, but define that for me. Show me the proof of that. Show me the stages that exist where we qualify to call ourselves a community. Our business life is lacking. Our cultural expression is in a lot of cases abhorrent. The instances of marriages are on the decline. The instances of mothers and wives and husbands and fathers seem to be on a slight decline. In order to have a community, you must have strong families. We have a responsibility. Chicago is just as much our responsibility as it is any other ethnic group. But I say once again, we need to highlight the progressive youth that are all around us, that are graduating from high institutions of learning, that have entered into entrepreneurship and being successful, that are making great strides in education. We need to highlight them, and the candidate that is running should highlight them and say, this is who I represent. These are my true constituents. This is me. I'm progressive, and I'm moving to strengthen the best among us. We give too much attention to the negative and not enough attention to the positive. So that's my take on that, and I wish Brandon Jonnson much success, but I would encourage him to bring forth the progressive youth among us, highlight them, publicize them, because our youth are not all criminals. They're not all criminals. We have some wonderful young people among us that are thriving, but they need to know that they have our support, that they have our backing.
Yeah, I agree.
So that we can turn around. Yes, ma'am.
Yes, absolutely. Well, I'm hoping, and perhaps because there were also some races where we have some new leadership, and I'm looking to have some of them on our future shows, and perhaps some of the young male leadership that emerged may be able to be on your men only discussion this month and highlight some of the vision that they had. And I think one of the biggest challenges is reaching that element that has given up and has become the outcasts of society, and for whatever reason is not feeling that they belong and are therefore have become predatory. Pardon me. And I'd certainly like to see how do we go about reaching out to those who have been shunned and bring them back into the fold of humanity. I'd like to see another strategy other than just round up everybody who we fear and lock them up. I think that's not the answer. But we need to hear from those who may used to have been those people. And we've got a comment from Viata. Thank you for joining us, Dave Viata. She says, glad to hear the race is over. Hope Johnson can clean up Chi-Town on every level. Well, one thing I would say is going to take more than one person to fix this mess, you know, and he's going to probably come in and find out it's a bigger mess than he thought, which every leader does. But I'm hoping that at least he gets the cooperation from the rest of the city council, a large part of which is newly elected young leaders that have never served on city council before. So it's going to be a whole new experience. But we're going to take a break. We got some callers on the line that want to comment. So hold on. We'll be right back. And we are going to take a look at what are some things that if someone really had good intentions and wanted to fix the problem and not just fix the blame, what are some things that we'd like to see happen? And I know we've even, you know, talked about some legislative ideas.
You're breaking up, Naima.
Oh, am I? I need to probably close the window. Okay, well, let me fix that. And then we'll be right back after this quick break. So we want you all to stay with us.
Hi, I'm Barbara.
I'm Cheryl.
And I'm Naima. We're three Black moms.
And in case you didn't notice the resemblance, we're also three sisters.
We're going to be coming to you every week, sharing our successes and our mistakes as we navigate our lives as moms, wives, sisters, daughters, and of course, Black women in today's world.
We'll talk about it all: race, politics, religion, economics, culture, and we'll take a look at everything from whether or not to use corporal punishment to how do you teach your children about sex.
Look for our upcoming book, Growing Up Charles. It's a personal story about our lives growing up in Maple Park on Chicago's South Side. I'm Barbara.
I'm Cheryl.
And I'm Naima. We're three Black moms. Follow us on Facebook and subscribe to our YouTube channel, Three Black Moms.
The Female Solution Global Radio TV Show invites you to an invigorating conversation with our team of hosts Monday through Friday, 7 a.m. to 9 a.m. Central Time. Start your week with Monday Morning Mindfulness with Zelda Speaks. Tuesdays, Self-Cell Care with Jody Susan. Wednesdays, Repairing Broken Families with Naima Latif and co-host Kareem Hamid. Thursdays, Soulful Solutions with Dr. Debbie Green. And Fridays, Health and Wellbeing with Beata. Saturdays, tune in 12 noon to 2 p.m. Central Time. First Saturday, Success Strategies with Jana. Second Saturday, Wendy Williams Esquire on relationships. Third Saturday, Move Around with Deborah. And fourth Saturday, Wisdom with Mama D. Join us Sundays, 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. Central Time for Soul Purpose Healing with Beata. Call in and comment 515-605-9325 Press 1 to speak to the host and be a part of the solution.
I'm Mama Joy. And I'm Reverend Rosemary. Join us every second Saturday of the month, 12 noon to 2 p.m. Central Time, here on the Female Solution Global Radio TV show for Neighborship of Joy. We'll have powerful conversations inviting women to walk in the light. So call in 515-605-9325 and press 1 to speak to the host. You can also join us live on the Female Solution Facebook page and YouTube channel. So see you on the second Saturday on the Neighborship of Joy.
And we are back. You are listening to and watching the Female Solution Global Radio TV show. I'm Naima Latif, along with our co-host Kareem Hamid. And we want to hear from you. Give us a call, 515-605-9325. And we want you to press 1 to let us know you have something to say. And as always, we encourage you, if you are listening or if you are watching on our Facebook or YouTube channel, The Female Solution, then we invite you to write in your comments and we will gladly share them with our listening and viewing audience.
Unmuted.
And we are with our co-host Kareem Hamid and our American Muslim 360 family every Wednesday. So we certainly do appreciate the fact that we have this global audience, and because me, the host, happens to live in Chicago for the last couple of days, at least, maybe a couple of weeks, we've been highly focused on the Chicago election, primarily because Chicago is a very significant city in the United States. It's been often called the heart of America. And so much of what happens here influences the rest of the nation. So it was a big deal, so much so that a Senator Bernie Sanders from Vermont, former candidate for president of the United States, flew in for a big rally this past Friday and packed the UIC pavilion with supporters for Brandon Jonnson and his endorsement, and also that of Martin Luther King III, I think had an impact. And Martin Luther King III, he's not a politician, but he's a big symbol
Naima,
for America.
You are breaking up.
Okay, I may have to.
Naima, you are breaking up.
All right,
I'm not sure what's causing it, but
okay, I may have to change phones. I may have to change my connection. So if you can hold on for just a moment, and we will be right back to make sure that we connect properly, because we want you all to hear the conversation. We want to bring in, if it's my sound, I don't know, but I do want to bring in our callers. so I want to make sure you can hear them. Well, let me start with our first caller while I fix my sound and see if.
Now you are very clear at this time. You are very clear.
Okay.
The audio is very clear right now. I'm not sure what transpired, but it's very clear right now.
All right. Well, let me open a mic and I'll see if I can make some adjustments just to make sure I stay clear. And let me open the mic for area code 314-677. Go ahead and introduce yourself to our listening and viewing audience and give us your thoughts on the election of Brandon Jonnson as mayor. And does that mean racial politics is over? Are people used to Black people being in leadership now, whites as well? Because he had a large young white following that put him over the top, as well as, you know, many other ethnicities. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, you sound good. I think there's something wrong with your co-host's line there in St. Louis. I was hearing everything that you said.
Oh, I'm glad to hear that.
But no, I don't live in Chicago. I kind of watch from a distance, and I'm happy that whoever won, and they have an opportunity to try to live out their promises or what their expectations would probably be. I think this whole idea of Black and voting for people because of the color of their skin is antiquated. This young man has an educational background similar to the one there in Atlanta. But they also elected a young Black candidate who was highly professional. And you talking about the success of Black, what needs to be done is take a look at the data in particular areas. That way you can compare and what it's like 4 years from now. And that's the tell.
You are breaking up, Deontay.
Yeah, now I hear him breaking up. Yeah, just breaking up a little bit. I'm not sure if it is my internet connection. I will.
But I think that the education needs to be looked at. I think that the modern way that people are tending to go to school choice and that's what money policy about because there's just too many parameters that just are not working. And
you know, even his line is really fraught with it's breaking up terribly, very bad now at this time.
Yeah, let me double check my internet connection. Okay, we're